For 300 years, the Galactic Federation watched Earth from a safe distance. They placed warning beacons around the solar system. They marked the small blue planet with danger signs in every known language. They told their children stories about the monsters that lived there. Earth was a nightmare. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was filled with a dangerous gas called oxygen. The weather changed without warning, bringing floods and fires and storms that could destroy cities. Radiation from the yellow sun caused cancer. The water was filled with salt that could kill most species in minutes. And yet life thrived there. Terrible life. Predators with sharp teeth hunted in packs. Tiny creatures carried diseases that could wipe out entire populations. Plants produced poisons. Even the smallest insects could kill with a single sting. But nothing on Earth was more terrifying than the humans. The Federation studied them for centuries. They watched humans survive ice ages and volcanic eruptions. They watched them fight endless wars against each other, developing weapons of increasing destruction. They watched them tame their world, building cities on fault lines and coastlines and frozen wastelands. They watched them split atoms and walk on their moon and reach toward the stars. The Federation decided that humanity must never leave their planet. A quarantine was established. Any ship approaching Earth would be destroyed. Any human ship attempting to leave would be eliminated. They had to stay contained. This was the law for 300 years. Then the came. Nobody knew where the swarm originated. They appeared at the edge of Federation space like a dark cloud, billions of insect-like creatures traveling through the void in living ships made of flesh and bone. They did not communicate. They did not negotiate. They simply consumed. The first system to fall was Prime, home to 8 billion peaceful. The crystalline beings had never developed weapons. They had never needed to. The Federation protected them. But the Federation could not stop the Ambassador Telos watched his burn from the safety of a refugee transport. His crystal body flickered with grief as the swarm ships descended on his cities, his people, his entire civilization. In 3 days, Prime was dead. They had harvested everything, stripping the planet down to bare rock. 11 more systems fell in the following months. The Federation fleet, designed for peacekeeping and exploration, was useless against the swarm. Their weapons were too weak. Their ships were too slow. Their soldiers were too fragile. High Counselor called an emergency session on the Council Station. Representatives from 100 species gathered in the Great Chamber, their bodies suited and protected from each other's environmental needs. Fear hung in the air like poison. "We have no options," announced, his gelatinous body trembling. "Our models predict complete extinction within 18 months. The chamber erupted in panic. Species that had known peace for thousands of years now faced the end of everything. Some wept. Some prayed to gods they had long forgotten. Some simply sat in silent shock. Ambassador Telos rose from his seat. His crystal form caught the light, sending rainbows across the chamber walls. "There is one option," he said quietly, "one we have never considered." The chamber fell silent. The Telos continued, "The humans." The reaction was immediate. Screams of protest filled the room. Representatives fled toward the exits. Some collapsed from the stress, their fragile bodies unable to handle the fear. "You suggest we invite monsters to save us from monsters," demanded. "I suggest we ask for help from the only species that might be able to fight the." Telos remained calm. "We have no other choice." The vote took 7 hours. In the end, desperation won over fear. A distress signal was prepared and transmitted toward the quarantined solar system. On Earth, Commander was eating breakfast when his communicator buzzed. He was a tall man in his 50s, with gray hair and scars from wars most people had forgotten. He had fought in the Pacific Unification War, the Brazilian Crisis, and the Lunar Rebellion. He had seen humanity at its worst and its best. Now he commanded the Stellar Defense Force, humanity's first interstellar military. They had built their ships in secret, hiding from the Federation's watching eyes. They had developed weapons based on centuries of warfare. They had trained soldiers who could survive conditions that would kill any other species in the galaxy. They had been preparing for the day when the Federation would try to destroy them. They never expected an invitation. Lieutenant Park rushed into his office, her face pale with shock. She was young, barely 30, but she was the best communications officer in the fleet. She had spent years decoding Federation signals, learning their languages, understanding their cultures. "Sir, you need to see this," she said, handing him a. Read the message twice, then a third time. "This is genuine." "Yes, sir. The authentication codes match. The Federation is asking for help." "How many civilians are at risk?" Checked her data. 47 billion across 12 systems currently under attack. More if they continue their advance. Set down the. He walked to his window and looked out at the shipyard below. Dozens of warships waited there, their crews ready, their weapons loaded. Ships built by a species that had spent its entire existence fighting to survive. "They imprisoned us," said quietly. "They treated us like animals." "Yes," agreed, "they were afraid. And now they want us to save them." Turned back to face her. His expression was hard but not cruel. 47 billion people, Lieutenant. Mothers and children and ordinary people who never decided to quarantine anyone. They are dying and they asked for help. He picked up his communicator. "This is Commander to all fleet commanders. Emergency assembly in 1 hour. We have a mission." Stared at him just like that, after everything they did. Smiled, but there was no humor in it. "We are humans, Lieutenant. We fight, we protect. We do not abandon people who ask for help." He paused at the door. "Get the fleet ready. We are going to war." The Federation Council Station was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It floated in neutral space, a massive ring of metal and glass that housed millions of diplomats, workers, and refugees. For 10,000 years, it had been the center of galactic civilization. Now it was filled with fear. Ambassador Telas stood at the observation deck, watching the stars. His crystal body had grown dull over the past weeks. Grief did that to the. When they lost hope, they lost their light. "The human fleet has entered Federation space," an aide reported. "They will arrive within 6 hours." Telas nodded slowly. He had started this. He had convinced the council to send the distress signal. If the humans came as conquerors instead of saviors, the blame would be his. "What do we know about their ships?" High Counselor asked. The gelatinous was surrounded by security guards, as if they could protect him from. "Very little," the military advisor replied. "They built their fleet in secret. Our surveillance never detected it." "How is that possible?" "They hid their shipyards inside asteroids. They used tunnels and caves. They are very good at hiding." Shuddered. "What kind of species hides their weapons?" "One that expects to be attacked," Tella said quietly. "We gave them every reason to fear us." The hours passed slowly. Species from across the Federation gathered at viewing ports and screens, waiting for their first look at the. Some prepared weapons, though they knew such things would be useless. Some prayed. Some simply held their families close. Then the human fleet arrived. They emerged from hyperspace like a storm breaking through clouds. 47 warships, each one massive and angular and covered in weapons. They were not elegant like Federation vessels. They were not beautiful. They were built for one purpose only, and that purpose was destruction. The flagship was named after a mountain on the human. It was 3 kilometers long, bristling with cannons and missile tubes and strange devices that Federation scientists could not identify. Its hull was indented, showing signs of battles already fought. "They look like predators," someone whispered. "They are predators," Telos replied. A communication request came through. Hesitated, then accepted it. A human face appeared on the screen, a female with dark hair and calm eyes. She wore a simple uniform without decoration. "This is Dr. Lee, diplomatic representative of Earth," she said. "We received your distress signal. We are here to help." The council chamber erupted in confused murmurs. This was not what they expected. No threats, no demands, just an offer of assistance. You came," stammered, "even after we imprisoned your species." His expression did not change. "You were afraid of us. We understand fear, but we do not let fear stop us from doing what is right." A shuttle was prepared to bring the human delegation aboard the station. Security teams lined the corridors, their weapons drawn. Medical teams waited nearby with sedatives and containment equipment. Nobody knew what to expect. The shuttle docked, the airlock opened, and Dr. Lee stepped onto the station. The reaction was immediate. Delegates scrambled backward, their crystal bodies cracking from stress. Guards collapsed into defensive puddles. Even the battle-hardened warriors retreated several steps. Stopped walking. She looked around at the terrified faces and sighed softly. "I apologize," she said. "I should have warned you. Human body temperature is around 37 degrees Celsius. Our hearts beat approximately 70 times per minute. We breathe oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. I know these things are dangerous to many of you." "How are you even alive?" asked, his voice trembling. "We evolved on a," replied simply. "Everything about us is designed for survival." She walked slowly toward the council chamber, giving the aliens time to adjust to her presence. Security guards kept their weapons aimed at her, but she ignored them. She had faced worse than nervous soldiers. In the chamber, she stood before the gathered representatives of 100 species. They looked at her with fear and wonder and desperate hope. These were people who had never known violence, who had built their civilization on peace and cooperation. Now they faced extinction, and their only hope was a monster. "I will be honest with you," said. "We are dangerous. Everything you feared about us is true. We fight. We kill. We have spent our entire history at war with each other and with our world." She paused. "But we also protect. We also sacrifice. We also love." She activated a display showing the current positions. 12 systems consumed, 47 billion dead, more dying every day. "Your enemy does not negotiate. They do not show mercy. They simply consume." His voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it. "We have fought enemies like this before. On our world we call them locusts, plagues, natural disasters. We survived them all." "How?" asked. "By being more dangerous than they are." Aboard the sergeant briefed his Marine unit on their mission. Around them, Federation observers watched with growing unease. The humans moved differently than any species they had seen. They were efficient, coordinated, predatory. "They are tough," explained, displaying images of the invaders. 3 meters tall, chitinous armor, multiple limbs with sharp edges. They hunt in swarms and communicate through pheromones. "Sounds like big bugs," Private said. She was the youngest member of the unit, barely 20 years old, but she had already earned a reputation for fearlessness. "Big bugs that have killed 47 billion people," reminded her. "Do not underestimate them." "Understood, Sergeant, but with respect, they have never fought humans before." An observer stepped forward. They were the Federation's warrior species, standing 2 meters tall with 4 arms and armored skin. They were considered the most dangerous fighters in known space. "You truly believe you can defeat they asked. "We could not. Our best warriors died by the thousands." Looked at him calmly. "How much gravity is on your?" "0.7 standard." "Earth is 1.0. Our bones are denser. Our muscles are stronger. We evolved fighting predators that would eat your species for breakfast." Smiled, showing his teeth. They flinched at the display. "They have numbers, they have armor, they have rage, but they have never faced a species in combat." He turned back to his unit. "We deploy in 12 hours. Standard combat load. We are going to show the galaxy what humans can do." In the council chamber, Doctor finished her presentation. The representatives sat in stunned silence. They had expected monsters. They had found warriors. "We ask for nothing in return," said. "No payment, no territory, no power. We only ask that when this is over you remember that we came when you called. We fought for people who feared us. We died for people who imprisoned us." She bowed slightly. "That is who we are. That is what humans do." The first human ships departed for the front lines that night. Prime was a beautiful world. Green forests covered most of its surface. Clean rivers flowed through valleys filled with flowers. 3 billion lived there, farming and singing and raising their children in peace. They were small and gentle. They had soft blue fur and large eyes made for seeing in dim forest light. They had never developed weapons. They had never needed them. The Federation protected them. But the Federation was not there when they came. The swarm arrived without warning. Thousands of living ships descended from the sky, blocking out the sun. Warriors poured onto the surface, their razor-sharp limbs cutting through everything in their path. They screamed and ran, but there was nowhere to go. The capital city fell in hours. Millions died. Millions more were captured, dragged into swarm ships for purposes too horrible to imagine. The planetary defense fleet was destroyed in minutes. The few Federation ships in the system fled, sending desperate signals for help. Help came from an unexpected source. The human fleet arrived at Prime like a hammer strike. 12 warships burst from hyperspace directly into the swarm formation, their weapons already firing. They had never seen anything like it. Commander stood on the bridge watching the battle unfold. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. No panic, no fear, just focus. "Enemy ships are attempting to regroup," Lieutenant Park reported. "They seem confused by our tactics." "They expected us to fight from a distance," replied. "That is how civilized species fight, but we are not civilized." They dove into the heart of the swarm, its guns blazing. Human ships did not fight like Federation vessels, maintaining safe distances and exchanging careful shots. Human ships fought like wolves, rushing in close, striking hard, accepting damage to deal more damage. Federation observers watched in horror. The G-forces from human maneuvers would have killed any other crew. The impacts from weapons would have shattered any other hull. But the human ships kept fighting, kept killing, kept pushing deeper into the enemy formation. "How are they surviving that?" an observer whispered. "Their ships have internal gravity systems," a technician explained. "And their bodies can handle forces that would our organs. They evolved On the surface, the situation was even more desperate. Captain Shin led her company into the ruins searching for survivors. The streets were filled with bodies. The buildings were burning. The air smelled like death. "Contact ahead," her sergeant reported. "Patrol 12 warriors." Raised her hand, signaling her soldiers to stop. She studied the enemy through her scope. They were massive, each one standing 3 meters tall. Their bodies were covered in black armor that could stop most weapons. Their limbs ended in blades that could cut through metal. Federation military doctrine said that engaging in close combat was suicide. One warrior was worth 10 Federation soldiers. Fighting them directly was impossible. Smiled grimly. "Standard formation, we hit them fast and hard." Her soldiers moved without hesitation. They had trained for years in conditions that would kill most species. They had fought in jungles and deserts and frozen wastelands. They had learned to fight against enemies bigger and stronger and faster than themselves. They never saw them coming. The first shots dropped 3 warriors before they could react. The humans moved like shadows, using cover and angles that they did not expect. When the insects charged, the humans did not run. They stood their ground and kept firing. Private found herself face to face with a warrior. It towered over her, its bladed arms raised for a killing strike. She could smell its alien stench. She could see her reflection in its compound eyes. She did not flinch. Her knife found the gap in its armor before its blade could fall. The screamed and collapsed, was already moving to her next target. The fight lasted 4 minutes. 12 warriors lay dead. 2 humans were wounded, but none were killed. "Push forward," ordered. "We have civilians to save." They found them in a hospital on the edge of the city. 3,000, mostly children and elderly, had barricaded themselves inside. Warriors surrounded the building, trying to break through the doors. The humans hit them from behind. The battle was brutal and short. Warriors fell under concentrated fire. Those who tried to flee were hunted down. Those who stood and fought died where they stood. When the last fell, the hospital doors opened. Faces peered out, blue fur stained with tears, large eyes wide with shock. They saw the human soldiers standing among the corpses, breathing hard but unbowed. A small child walked forward. She could not have been more than 5 years old. She looked up at who was covered in blood and dirt and alien ichor. "Are you angels?" the child asked. Knelt down to meet her eyes. "No, little one, we are humans." "What is a human?" Smiled gently. "We are the people who come when others need help." The battle continued for 6 more hours. Human soldiers pushed through the city block by block, clearing positions and rescuing survivors. In space, the human fleet systematically destroyed the swarm ships, cutting off any chance of retreat. By nightfall, Prime was free. The cost was not small. 47 human soldiers died in the fighting. 2 ships were badly damaged. Hundreds more were wounded, but they had done the impossible. They had beaten the commander stood on the surface of Prime, surrounded by grateful and exhausted soldiers. The Federation observers who had accompanied the fleet stared at him with a mixture of awe and fear. "You lost 47 soldiers," one observer said, "yet you seem almost pleased." "I am not pleased that my people died," replied. "I am never pleased by that, but I am proud of what they accomplished. They saved 3 billion lives today. That is worth any sacrifice." "They will return," the observer warned. "They will come back stronger." Looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there the Swarm Queen was watching. She had lost this battle. She would not accept defeat easily. "Let them come," he said. "We will be ready." Captain found Private sitting alone near the hospital. The young soldier was staring at her hands, still stained with blood. "First real combat?" asked, sitting beside her. "Yes, Captain." "How do you feel?" Was quiet for a long moment. "I feel like I understand now, why we train so hard, why we push ourselves past every limit." She looked at the hospital where families were reuniting with tears of joy. "It is for them, for people who cannot fight for themselves." Nodded. "That is exactly right. We are monsters, but we choose what we fight for, and we will always choose to protect the innocent." News of the victory at Prime spread across the Federation like wildfire. They had done the impossible. They had faced and won. Hope returned to the galaxy. But in the dark spaces between stars, the Swarm Queen learned of her defeat. Her compound eyes burned with rage. These humans had killed her warriors. They had stolen her prey. They had challenged her dominance. She would destroy their world. She would consume their species. She would teach the galaxy what happened to those who the swarm. The war was just beginning. The Swarm Queen had lived for 1,000 years. She had consumed 100 worlds. She had destroyed civilizations that thought themselves invincible. In all that time, she had never known defeat. Until the humans came. She floated in the heart of her flagship, a massive living ship made of flesh and bone and hatred. Around her, millions of warriors waited for her command. They shared her rage. They shared her hunger. They would follow her to the end of the galaxy. The prey species have found protectors, she broadcast to her swarm. Creatures from a poison world. They killed our warriors, they stole our harvest. Her mandibles clicked together in fury. We will go to their world. We will consume their children. We will teach them the price of defiance. The entire swarm changed direction. Every ship, every warrior, every resource the Queen commanded now pointed toward one target, a small blue planet called Earth. The Federation watched in horror as the swarm mobilized. They sent warnings to Earth. They offered evacuation ships. They begged the humans to run. The humans did not run. Admiral No stood on the bridge of the, watching his fleet assemble around Earth. Every ship humanity had ever built was there. Battleships from the Pacific nations, carriers from the European alliance, destroyers from the African coalition. For the first time in history, humanity was truly united. The swarm will arrive in 16 hours, his aide reported. Estimated enemy strength is approximately 10,000 ships. And our strength? 312 combat vessels, plus orbital defense platforms and ground-based weapons. The numbers were not good. The humans were outnumbered more than 30 to 1. By any reasonable calculation, they should lose. They should die. Their planet should burn. But humans had never been reasonable. Dr. Lee joined the Admiral on the bridge. She had returned from the council station to stand with her people. If humanity fell, she would fall with them. The Federation offered to evacuate civilians, she said. Most refused to leave. Nodded, this is our home, our world. We will not abandon it. The Swarm Queen thinks she is coming to destroy a primitive species. She does not understand what she is facing. No, agreed, she does not. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice reached every ship, every station, every soldier waiting to defend their world. This is Admiral No. In 16 hours, the largest enemy fleet ever assembled will arrive at Earth. They come to destroy us. They come to consume everything we have built, everything we love, everything we are. He paused. They will fail. We are humans. We have survived ice ages and plagues and nuclear weapons. We have fought each other for 1,000,000 years, developing the art of war to perfection. Every battle ever fought, every strategy ever created, every weapon ever designed, lives in our blood and our bones. The Swarm Queen sees a small planet with a few hundred ships. She sees easy prey, but she does not see what we see. She does not see the warriors of Sparta who held a mountain pass against an army. She does not see the soldiers of Stalingrad who fought for every street and every building. She does not see the defenders of every homeland who refused to surrender no matter the odds. Today we show the galaxy who we are. Today we write our story in fire and blood. Today humanity stands together. All ships prepare for battle. We hold here. We hold forever. The hours passed. Soldiers checked their weapons. Pilots ran final diagnostics on their fighters. Civilians gathered in shelters, holding their families close. Prayers were spoken in 1,000 languages to 1,000 different gods. Then the swarm arrived. They came out of hyperspace like a dark cloud, blocking out the stars. 10,000 ships, each one a living nightmare of teeth and claws and hunger. The Swarm Queen broadcast her demand across all frequencies. Surrender and your death will be quick. Fight and you will suffer for eternity. Admiral responded with 3 words, come and take. The Battle of Sol began. Human ships launched from Earth orbit, diving into the swarm formation with weapons blazing. They did not fight defensively. They attacked. They charged into the enemy like wolves attacking a herd. Commander led the assault from the. His ship was damaged from the battle at Prime, but it could still fight. He could still fight. Target their command ships, he ordered. Cut off their coordination. The punched through the swarm line, its guns carving paths through the enemy formation. Other ships followed, exploiting the gaps. Human fighters swarmed around the larger vessels, targeting weak points that Federation analysis had never identified. On the Council station, Federation observers watched the battle with disbelief. "That maneuver," a military expert said. "What is that?" Doctor had stayed behind to provide commentary. "It is called crossing the T, a naval tactic developed for ocean warfare. The attacking ships position themselves perpendicular to the enemy line, allowing all weapons to fire while the enemy can only respond with forward guns. They adapted ocean tactics to space combat. We adapted everything. See that formation, based on cavalry charges from ancient Earth, those ships operating independently behind enemy lines, guerrilla tactics from jungle wars, that coordinated strike pattern, air combat doctrine from our world wars." The stared at the screen. "You have tactics for every situation. We have been killing each other for 1,000,000 years. We have refined the art of death to a level you cannot imagine." His voice was quiet but hard. "Now we turn those skills against a worthy enemy." The battle raged for hours. Human ships fell, but they took dozens of with them. Pilots who ran out of ammunition rammed their fighters into enemy vessels. Damaged ships stayed in the fight until they literally fell apart. Crews that lost their weapons boarded enemy ships and fought hand to hand. The swarm had never faced anything like this. Sergeant led his Marines onto a command ship. The interior was dark and wet, filled with organic tunnels and chambers that seemed almost alive. Warriors came at them from every direction. "Hold the line," shouted his rifle blazing. "Push forward." They fought through corridors filled with enemy bodies. They climbed over the dead to reach the living. They refused to stop, refused to fall back, refused to die. Private was beside him, her face covered in blood that was not hers. She had run out of ammunition long ago. She fought with her knife, with her fists, with anything she could find. "How much further?" she gasped. "The Queen's chamber is ahead. We cut off the head, the body dies." They pushed forward, leaving a trail of corpses behind them. Other boarding teams were doing the same across the swarm fleet. Humans, dying by the hundreds, giving everything they had. The swarm queen felt her warriors falling. She felt her ships burning. She felt something she had never experienced before. "Fear. What are these creatures?" she broadcast to her remaining forces. "Why will they not die?" Admiral heard her transmission. He smiled grimly. "We are humans," he replied, "and we do not know how to surrender." The battle had been raging for 17 hours. Both sides were exhausted. Both sides had lost thousands. The outcome hung in the balance. Then's team reached the Queen's chamber. The swarm queen was massive, a bloated monster surrounded by her personal guards. She rose to meet the human intruders, her mandibles dripping with venom. "You cannot defeat me," she hissed. "I am eternal, I am unstoppable." Raised his weapon. "You are finished." The fight was brief and brutal. The Queen's guards fell one by one, took a wound that would have killed anyone else, but she kept fighting. Took 3. In the end, only was left standing. He faced the Queen alone, his body broken, his weapon empty. "You have nothing left," the Queen mocked. "You will die here." Smiled, blood dripped from his lips. "Maybe, but so will you." He pulled the pin on his last grenade and charged. The explosion tore through the Queen's chamber. It killed the Queen. It ended the battle. Across the swarm fleet, warriors stopped fighting. Without the Queen's guidance, they were lost. They scattered, fleeing into the dark spaces between stars. Earth was saved. Admiral watched the last swarm ships retreat. His fleet was in ruins. Thousands were dead, but they had won. "Report," he said quietly. Enemy forces in full retreat, all sectors reporting victory. His aide's voice broke. "We did it, sir. We actually did it." Closed his eyes. He thought of all the soldiers who had died. He thought of and his team. He thought of humanity's children, safe in their shelters, who would grow up on a world that still existed. Yes, he said, we did. For the first time in months, no distress signals echoed through Federation space. No worlds burned. No refugees fled their homes. The swarm was shattered, its remnants hiding in the darkest corners of the universe. Humanity had won. The cost was terrible. 12,000 human soldiers had died defending Earth and liberating Federation worlds. 200 ships were destroyed. Cities on 3 continents bore scars from orbital bombardment. Families across the planet mourned their lost loved ones. But they had survived. They had protected not just themselves, but billions of innocent beings who had no way to fight back. They had proven that we're more than monsters. Commander stood in the medical bay of the, looking at the rows of wounded soldiers. Many would recover. Some would carry their injuries forever. A few would not survive the week. Private lay in one of the beds, her body wrapped in bandages. The wound she had taken in the Queen's chamber should have killed her. The doctors said she survived through sheer willpower. "How are you feeling?" asked, sitting beside her. "Like I got stepped on by something very large and very angry," replied. Her voice was weak, but there was humor in it. "Did we win?" "We won." "Good," she closed her eyes. Sergeant was quiet for a moment. "He died killing the Queen. His sacrifice saved us all." Nodded slowly. Tears leaked from her closed eyes, but she did not sob. "He was a good soldier, a good man. The best, he will be remembered." A week later, the Federation Council called an emergency session. Representatives from every species gathered on the station, but the atmosphere was different now. The fear was gone. In its place was something new, something that looked almost like hope. Ambassador Telos waited at the entrance to the chamber. His crystal body shone brighter than it had in months. He had survived. His people, what remained of them, had survived. Because of the humans. Dr. Lee arrived with a small delegation. Admiral walked beside her, his uniform decorated with medals from a dozen grateful worlds. Behind them came Captain Shin and a handful of soldiers who had become heroes. "Ambassador," said, bowing slightly. "Dr. Telos," returned the bow. "I wanted to thank you personally. You came when we called, you fought for us, you died for us. We did what was right." "You did what no one else could do," Telos paused. "I was wrong about your species. We all were. We saw your violence and thought you were monsters. We did not see the courage behind it, the love." Smiled gently. "We are still dangerous, Ambassador. That has not changed. But we have learned to point our danger at worthy targets." They entered the chamber together. The gathered representatives rose to their feet, a gesture of respect that had never been offered to any species before. Humans, once quarantined and feared, now stood as equals among the stars. High Counselor called the session to order. His gelatinous body rippled with emotion as he spoke. "We are here to discuss the future of Human Federation relations, but first I must make a statement on behalf of the entire Council." He turned to face the human delegation. "We were wrong. We imprisoned your species out of fear. We treated you as threats instead of potential allies. And when we faced extinction, you came to save us anyway. On behalf of the Galactic Federation, I apologize, and I thank you." The chamber was silent for a long moment, then stepped forward. "We accept your apology. We understand your fear. For a long time, we feared ourselves. We looked at our history of war and violence and wondered if we were truly monsters." She paused. "But this war taught us something important. Our violence is not a weakness. It is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or evil. We choose good. We choose protection. We choose to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them, not because we are asked to, not because we expect payment, but because it is right." Admiral spoke next. "The swarm is broken but not destroyed. Remnants still hide in dark spaces, waiting to rebuild. Other threats may emerge. The galaxy is vast and danger lurks in many corners. Humanity offers a permanent alliance with the Federation. We will share our technology, our tactics, our knowledge of warfare. In return, we ask only for respect and friendship. Let us build a future together where no species has to face extinction alone. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was welcomed into the Federation, not as a quarantined threat but as honored allies. The warning beacons around Sol were removed. Human ships were granted free passage through Federation space. Human ambassadors took their place on the Council. A new age had begun. 6 months later, the memorial was completed. It stood on a small moon near the Council station, a massive structure of stone and metal dedicated to all who had died in the war. Human names were listed beside and 100 other species. In death, they were equals. Private stood before the wall, her eyes scanning the names. She had recovered from her wounds, though she walked with a limp that would never fully heal. Beside her, Captain waited quietly. "I found it," said softly. "Sergeant, Section 7, Row 43. She reached out and touched the carved letters. The stone was cold beneath her fingers. "Thank you, Sergeant," she whispered. "I will make you proud." Put a hand on her shoulder. "You already have, we all have." They walked away from the memorial together, leaving flowers beneath's name. Around them, beings from 100 worlds moved through the corridors, living lives that would have ended without human sacrifice. Aboard, the commander received a new message. 3 Federation colonies were reporting suspicious activity, remnants possibly regrouping. He did not hesitate. "Set course immediately, alert the Marines." Lieutenant looked at him. "We just finished rebuilding, the crew needs rest." "Rest can wait, people need help." Stood and walked to the bridge viewport. Stars stretched before him, countless points of light representing countless worlds. Some were peaceful, some were afraid, some were calling for help right now. "That is what we do, Lieutenant. We are humans, we fight, we protect, we answer when others call." He smiled, and there was warmth in it now. "Besides, I have a feeling the crew would not want to miss this." He was right. Within an hour, its crew eager for their next mission. Other human ships joined them, forming a small fleet that crossed Federation space in record time. They arrived at the threatened colonies to find scouts already fleeing. The mere presence of human warships was enough to send the remnants running. "Watch them go, they learn fast." Word spreads, agreed. "The galaxy knows now. Attack a Federation world and humans will come." Good turned away from the viewport. "Let them know, let everyone know they are here and we protect our own." On the Council station, Ambassador Telos updated humanity's file in the Federation archives. He removed the quarantine designation, the threat assessments, the fear-driven protocols. In their place, he wrote a single word that would define human Federation relations for thousands of years: allies. Below it, he added a note that future generations would read with wonder. They came from a world of death. They evolved through violence. They carried the fire of war in their blood, and when the galaxy faced its darkest hour, they chose to be its light. Remember them, honor them, trust them, for they have proven themselves the greatest friends the Federation has ever known. In a small apartment on Earth, an old woman sat with her. They asked her about the war, about the heroes, about the day humanity saved the galaxy. She told them stories of brave soldiers and impossible battles. She told them about Sergeant, who died killing a queen. She told them about Commander, who led fleets against impossible odds. She told them about ordinary people who became extraordinary because the moment demanded it. "Were you scared?" her youngest grandchild asked. The old woman smiled. "Of course we were scared. Everyone gets scared, but we did not let fear stop us. We never do." "Why?" "Because we are human, and humans protect those who need protecting, always." The child nodded seriously, accepting this truth as children do. Somewhere above them, human ships patrolled the stars, guarding a galaxy that had once feared them. They had found their purpose, and the galaxy would never be the same.